listen, it's going to be just a little short live. Oh, come on, don't do that. What is the hell's going on here? Okay, let me come back over here. Yes, okay. This little short live. I did not plan anything. I did not tell anybody. I'm just jumping on, okay, because I want to. And I want to just talk about something for just a minute and plan and talk about what we're going to do next and when we're going to do it and all that stuff. Oh, listen to that loud-ass music. Good Lord Almighty. Go. I'm over here. There. Oh! Stupid. Okay. Sorry about that. The music always starts out really loud, and I don't know why. I can't even hear my damn self. Let me see what's going on over here. My God, crazy. Let's see. Is there anything there now? Should be. All right. There. All right, now. Okay, let me get back over here. Now, I did not plan this. I did not put it out. I'm just jumping on. Okay, so we're going to talk about what we're planning and when we're going to do it and some of those other things. But I wanted to touch on one other thing that I'm noticing happening out there that is just very, it's bothersome. I'm just going to be honest with you, it's bothersome. Because honestly, as creators, instead of cutting each other down and saying ugly things to each other, going live and talking about other people and all that, why are you doing that? Why don't you mind your own business? Why don't you take care of your business? Leave other people alone. Don't be like that. Number one, it doesn't look good. And number two, who are you to judge anybody is how I feel about it. You won't catch me doing that. I'm not doing that. I just think that I've seen some things that are just very, very uncomfortable. I mean, I don't understand why people don't just kind of mind their own business, take care of their own channel, don't worry about somebody else's, that kind of thing. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's very uncomfortable, and it just makes you not even want to watch sometimes. Why can't we just all get along and just be respectful of each other. Don't judge each other. Just don't. It doesn't look, it just don't. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say about it. Okay, just really upset me today seeing all that. Because I'm like, what gives you the right to say anything about somebody else and what they do in the privacy of their home? Or what they do on their channel, or any of that. I mean, we all come here because we want to talk about things. We want to share things. We want to broaden our own. We want to express. We want to create. We want to share. We want to learn. We want to teach. We want to educate. We just want to maybe provide something to someone that maybe they don't get elsewhere, that they can get from us, from whatever it is that we're doing or we're talking about. I just would rather see that than I would some of these other things that I see going on. It's sad. It really is sad. And I know some of them are just doing parodies or whatever, and that's fine. Whatever, that's fine. But just to straight up go out and say something that you don't know? You're just assuming it based on something you saw? Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. Please. Anyway, let's go ahead and read one of our chapters from our book here. And then next week, on Monday, we're going to get back on our Aubrey Trail story. And I'm going to show the video that I want to show, the interview that I collected and all these other things. But we'll get back on that. But see, I need to finish this book, so we're just going to read. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter, hang on a second, okay. So we're going to go to part 3, okay, and we're going to read chapter 18, right? All right. I got to turn around so I can have the light over here. Y'all know I can't come live on Monday. That's right. Okay, let me tell you about this. I have to explain it first. Now, I joined this iStudy 5 years ago, and on Monday I have my final appointment with this group that did this iStudy. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this or not, but I feel good about it because I was one of the 360 people that was in the study that helped get this medication and its delivery approved by the FDA so that other people would not lose their eyesight from macular degeneration. So Monday I cannot come live because I have my very last appointment of that study after 5 years, and they did save my eyesight, and I really do appreciate that. So I can't come live on Monday, but I can on Tuesday. So I'll just come back to all of that on Tuesday. We'll just do it like that. So let me tell y'all what this is, and just in case you know somebody who is losing their eyesight from macular degeneration, they don't have to anymore. They've come out with a lot of different ways to save your eyesight, and I'm thankful every day. I'm going to tell y'all what the name of this medication is and how it's delivered into your system to save your sight. Okay, so let me go over here. I don't remember the name of it, but I just know what it is. It's like it's this little, hey there, it's this little piece of, it looks like a piece of rice, but it's actually implanted into your eye. Mine's right here. You can't see it, but I know it's there. And what they do is it started out every 3 months, then it went to 6 months, but they go in there and they put fresh medicine in there. And what happens is it's just constantly delivering this medicine to your eye to stop the macular degeneration from going any further. It does not reverse it, but it does stop it at the point that it's at already, which is a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And both of my grandmothers were blind by the time they passed away from macular degeneration. They told me, for all my, I remember just wearing good sunglasses my entire life because they said, oh, protect your eyes, protect your eyes, protect your eyes. Okay, well, I did, but it didn't really help because 5 years ago when I was 59, almost 60, is when they discovered that I actually had what they call wet macular degeneration in my left eye and dry macular degeneration in my right eye. Well, and about 2.5 years into this study, my right eye became wet too. So now I have like wet macular degeneration in both eyes. But thankfully, I've been able to have this medication to stop it from getting worse and to help other people don't lose their eyesight. So let me tell you what this is called. Let's see. It's like a pellet looking thing. Hang on a second. I don't remember the name of it. I don't have the material in front of me. And I'm only talking about it because I can't come on live Monday like I wanted to get back on track here with our, okay, pellet in eye to deliver. Let me see if I can look it up this way. I don't remember what this thing is called. Y'all just bear with me. To deliver meds. Meds. Okay, here we go. This was no more. Okay, there's a little implant. It's called sustained release pellet, okay? And it delivers this medication into your eye all the time so that you don't lose your eye. And it's called the implants such as Ozuradex or Retistar. They're designed to to release this medicine all the time. And you don't notice it's there, you don't feel it, none of that. It's just all of a sudden you're not losing your eyesight, really. It's just wonderful. I just can't say enough about it. Anyway, so I won't be able to come on Monday. Whenever I figure out, oh Lord, and what other thing I wanted to say, and I'm not rambling, I just want y'all to understand. People don't realize that they have this problem. The first sign that you have something you need to be concerned about is when you look at a line, a straight line, something you know is straight, and all of a sudden you're seeing some kind of a dip in it, some kind of little wave in it. Go to the eye doctor. Get your eyes dilated. Have them checked. Stop it from proceeding any further, because that is the first thing I noticed. And sure enough, I was correct. It was the beginnings of the macular degeneration, and it had turned wet. But anyway, all right, let's go ahead and read this. All right, so that's all I want to say about that. So here we go. We're going to go Rebel Tail. Let me turn the light on. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not prepared. I don't have a whole lot of time this afternoon, so hang on. There we go. That'll be better. Now put the lights on. Okay, here we go. Well, I tell you. Okay, I'm a little glasses on. Here we go. So, a year and a half later, I stood in the living room and just a dilapidated Collin, I'm sorry, of a dilapidated cottage off of Mulholland Drive. There was a hole in the roof through which I could see the faint outline of the crescent moon against the bright California sky. The house wasn't far from the campus where I'd recently started the second year of my graduate program at a private school in West LA. It was rare for me to take a break in those days, let alone kill time in a stranger's house. A full course load combined with the long hours spent still working as a music manager typically consumed most days and left little time for unorthodox errands. But that afternoon, I'd made an exception, and I had company. I knew a new friend had stood by my side. Her name was Everly, the lead singer of a band I'd recently signed to my management roster. Everly was my favorite client. She was a prolific songwriter and a talented singer with a style that was crossed between Maisie Starr and Courtney Love. What's more, she had just released a demo that had several major labels buzzing. In preparation to showcase her live performances, the singer and I had been spending a lot of time together, and I, for once, was grateful for the company. Because she doesn't make friends easily, David was still working nonstop. His company was no longer a startup. It had blossomed into a successful firm that was planning to go public. For more than a year, he had been working practically around the clock in preparation for the initial public offering. A move that was, let's turn our page, that was all but guaranteed to solidify his financial future and allow real freedom of his career. Vocationally speaking, the two of us weren't just surviving, we were thriving, but it had come to a steep price. Between school and work, David and I had become just passing ships in a passive-aggressive ocean. We hardly spent any time together, and when we did, we bickered. Even after living with me for years, he couldn't wrap his head around the idea that his dream girl was a sociopath. He didn't get that it had nothing to do with being a good person or a bad person. It was just a personality type. Its traits simply a part of my psychological fabric. I started to get the sense that his acceptance of me had stopped being unconditional. He approached my sociopathy like it was a series of choices and ones that he had no problem cherry picking. Aw, that's sad. Because that was the love, that's the love of her life. I will tell you this, she is married to David at this time. She's still married to David. They have children. It's a beautiful life they have, right? Okay. David, I noticed, was quick to just vocalize his disapproval of sociopathic behaviors he just didn't like. Yet we're happy to co-opt elements of my personality type when it suited his purpose. For example, he didn't seem to mind when I surreptitiously punished those I felt I had wronged. Okay, wait a minute. I surreptitiously punished those I felt had wronged him, and he had no problem breaking into empty houses together to have sex. Uh-oh. Yeah, I have to do trigger warning. She does just say it how it is, She's just very blunt and says it. It was like I wasn't allowed to be a sociopath without his permission, and the hypocrisy was just frustrating. It was the same hypocrisy. I'm sorry. It's hypocrisy, not crossing. Oh, God. It was the same hypocrisy I saw repeatedly in society when it came to people like him. Ever since discussing it with Dr. Carlin, I couldn't stop thinking about how my traits were only ever seen in negative lights. This perspective seemed short-sighted to me. Certainly some of them could be used destructively, but like any other trait, they could also be used constructively. For example, my reduced capacity for emotion made for me more capable of being pragmatic in decision-making, and then say David, who had a surplus of emotions, made him more prone to be people-pleasing. As far as my lack of guilt, well, I feel fortunate to have been spared such a burden. Yeah, feeling guilty is a burden. A lot of people have a hard time dealing with guilt, but anyway, I know I do. I don't like to hurt other people, and I dang sure hate to, if you've done something and you have to say, I'm sorry for doing it, you should feel guilty. That's why you're hurting other people. You should not be hurting other people, okay? That's just something I'm going to say there. The more time I spent studying psychology, the more convinced I was that guilt was a state of mind designed to oppress, not set free. It seemed to me that people didn't have to think for themselves as long as they had guilt doing it for them. And while the research on sociopathy was sparse, there was no shortage of resources on the harmful effects of shame and guilt. For emotional reactions such as low self-esteem and propensity toward anxiety and depression, to physical ones like increased sympathetic nervous systems and including problems with sleep and digestion. The negative aspects of guilt and shame seem to far outweigh the positive, and my new friend agreed. Everly was no stranger to the byproduct of guilt. Despite being the lead singer in an up-and-coming rock band, she often let the opinions of others and an overwhelming drive to be good undermine her success. I was stunned by this. By all accounts, she was a good person, a great person, yet she was constantly having to fight off feelings of contrition. In a lot of ways, she and David were similar. They were both exceptionally kind, compassionate, and loving. Both possessed an abundance of generosity and emotional fluency, which I considered the ability I most lacked. To connect and communicate, though, through feelings. Both were highly intelligent and fiercely talented, but they were also ironically hobbled by what seemed to me an almost compulsive sense of morality. You know, we teach that to our children. We really do. He goes, Everly was fascinated that I'd never experienced anything like it. Do you know how rare that is? She once asked me. Most people spend their entire lives trying to rid themselves of guilt and shame. Bullshit. I know I do, she confessed. You're like a unicorn. Everly's appreciation of my sociopathic traits made me feel seen in a good way, whereas David now seemed obsessed with getting me to express emotion and evolve some semblance of shame and guilt. Everly embraced me for the way I was. As a result, I found it easier to embrace myself. Being friends with you is like taking guilt immunity pills. She said, just looking around the abandoned house. Seriously, do you think I've ever broken into a house before? No way. I can't do things like this, but I can do it when you do it. And then she said, I love riding your dark coattails. She's such a funny writer. I smiled and just shifted my gaze to an ancient grand piano sitting in one corner of the ramshackle living room. The weather-beaten wood was just blanketed with leaves and water stains, but otherwise it was remarkably intact. I took a seat on the bench and pushed down on the keys. To my surprise, the strings were in tune. I glanced at Everly, who was wandering around the ground floor. So, do you like it? I asked. I think I want to buy it. Is it for sale, she asked? Well, not yet, I replied, but it will be. Shh, stop. Okay, y'all, hang on. I gotta let the UPS guy come up to the door because my dog's gonna bark, bark, bark. So we'll just stop for a minute because he's gonna bark. I wonder what, I didn't order anything. I wonder what we're getting. UPS is always fun, you know. Little prizes on the front. Jack, no, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll just talk for a minute because he's gonna bark. He's a dog, and I'm not gonna get really upset about it. So let me just put this on here. I don't know how long the UPS guy's gonna be over there. Okay, so the UPS guy's over there fumbling around in his truck, right? The dog sitting over here at the window looking at him, barking a little bit, and I'm trying to, trying to read and not let y'all be upset because my dog's barking and you can't hear me. So it's like a little circus at our house this afternoon. Oh my Lord, Jack can't help it. He's a dog, you know. He's just a male dog, and he's gonna protect his ground. That's what they do. So okay, I think he's fixing to leave. Yes, he's fixing to drive away, and we can proceed on. I'm sorry for the disturbance. Let's move along. Okay, Jack, you don't have to bark anymore. He's leaving. All right, here we go. I think it's magical. Everly lifted her foot forward, cautiously inspecting the pile. Shh. Okay, he's moved away from the window. Inspecting a pile of junk on the floor. How'd you even find it? Oh, I had my eye on it for years, I said. It's a place I've told you about, where the little old man and woman lived, the ones who were always outside. Her head snapped up in surprise. This is the house? Yes, I nodded, just enthusiastically. It's amazing. Yeah, she laughed, looking around. An amazing disaster. She had a point. The house was a disaster. Not only was there large holes in the ceiling, but there were vines growing in and through the broken windows. The kitchen looked as though it hadn't been touched since 1940, and there was no telling when the electricity had last been working. How did you know it was going to be on the market? Well, I found out a few days earlier. It had been weeks, months even, since I'd seen the old man and his wife just tending to the garden out front. After doing some snooping, I learned their fate. The old man got hit by a car. Oh, that's sad. The old man got hit by a car and when he was riding his bike to the Glen Center to get some water. Everly's jaw just dropped. So he died? Oh, no, I reassured her. They're both fine. They just had to take him to the hospital. The thing is, when the police came to tell his wife, I stopped and looked around. They found out that they'd been living like this. I waved my hand at all the junk in despair. Apparently, they were removed from this house, and Everly grew somber. That's so sad. So I guess the Adult Protective Services came in, saw the conditions, and removed them out of the house, and I believe this house is going to be condemned is what's happening here. I shrugged. At least they're in a place with electricity and running water. The city is going to sell the house on their behalf. It's part of a conservatorship or something. Everly looked around again, her expression softening. Wow, she said, can you imagine living here like this? I actually kind of love it, I said. I walked over to the giant staircase opposite the piano and took a seat on the crumbling step. You would, she replied with a laugh. I mean, yes, it's old and it needs a lot of work. And I continued, but it's got such cool energy. It reminds me of Miss Havishon's house from Great Expectations. She asked, eyeing at me dubiously, the decaying old mansion that goes to shambles after she gets left out of the altar. Oh, do y'all remember that? You remember that? I believe it was a book that made into a movie. Anyway, I shot her a smug glance. Yes, the one Estella would have remodeled after Pip said he needed to live on the west side. Everly nodded sympathetically. I shot her a smug glance. Yes, I'm sorry. God dang it, I'm having problems today. David and I have been having similar arguments for months. The house from Coldwater, he decided, was no longer where we should live. He wanted a new place closer to his job. I reluctantly agreed, but I loved my house, and it wasn't wild about moving, especially because of his job. The prospect of buying the Mulholland Cottage, however, had shifted my perspective. The whole ideal sounded like a creative adventure. Everly just grinned and walked across the room to lean against the piano. This is why I love you, she said. Only you would like a house like this. Only you would have the balls to buy it. And she grimaced as she looked around. I'd be way too nervous, or I'd be thinking about it's a money pit, she added. I had to admit, I thought of Tom Hanks' movie too. That house ended up being a masterpiece, I reminded her. That's my point, everybody said. You have no doubts because of your fearless. What can I say? There are perks to being a sociopath. Speaking of which, Everett said, changing the subject, I need to borrow some of that fearlessness for a show tonight. The show was kicked off. It was a kickoff performance for a weekly residency. Everly's band had just been offered at the legendary Roxy Theater. Oh, going to the Roxy. That was a funny movie, wasn't it? Wanting to capitalize on the excitement surrounding her demo, I had invited several of major labels to attend. My phone started just buzzing, and I looked to see the text from David. Good luck tonight, my love. I can't wait to see you. I smiled, and David didn't love that I still work for my dad, so I just really appreciated that he was so supportive in coming to the show. I texted, thank you, baby. I'm so excited. Is that David? Everly asked, is he coming right? He is coming to the show, right? Well, of course, I said, putting my phone away. He just has to come straight from work. She shook her head. Your boyfriend works more than anyone I've ever met, she said. Seriously, if Ben spent that much time at work as David did, I'd be showing up at his office like Glenn Close at that Fatal Attraction. Ben was Everly's boyfriend and a member of her band. He was also her self-appointed business manager. He was harmless enough, but there were certain things about him that annoyed me. For one thing, I didn't like that he made jokes at her expense, often in front of his friends, a revolving crew of wannabe insiders. He strongly resisted any attempt I made to showcase Everly as an independent artist, and he never seemed to pay attention to her, unless it had something to do with the band. Well, what do we call those people? What do we call them? Narcissistic. Narcissistic, right? Wow. I rolled my eyes at the thought of anyone giving a shit where Ben was, an expression that Everly just misinterpreted as disapproval. Don't judge me, she laughed. You know how jealous I get. I wish I could be more like you. And she wrapped her arms around my neck, my feisty little kitten. Stop it, I said, struggling to get away. Everly knew how much I hated hugs. I just think she has a lot of trauma from her childhood. I really do. I can't teach you a thing, or she goes, I can't teach you a thing or two, she said. Things like love and affection. She planted an exaggerated kiss on my cheek. Just symmetrical symbolicism. She shouted, put us together and we're the perfect person. I broke free just laughing. That's enough education for today. I glanced at my watch. Anyway, we have to get going. Sound check is in 30 minutes. Yes, replied Everly, her blue eyes just sparkling. Let's go play a rock show. Yeah, but that would be fun. Later that night, I sat backstage in the Roxy dressing room, looking over the guest list. Though not social by nature, I found my role as the manager of a rock band like a counterintuitive match for my personality. There was never any standing around for me. At Everly shows, never an opportunity for someone to approach me or start lengthy conversations, except for the brief interactions I had with people I'd invited from the music business. I kept my eyes down and my hands busy. I never so much as stopped to get a drink while I was working. She goes, I never stopped so much as to get a drink on one of Everly's performances. It's just until 20 minutes before the show. That's when I would disappear upstairs to collapse on one of the couches for a quick pre-set-up cat nap. The small dressing room space was filled with people that night. I tossed the list aside and rested my head against the arm of the couch, my eyes growing heavy from the soft hum of the hushed conversations. Hey, said Tony, just nudging me with his toe. I opened my eyes and smiled at the band's road manager, who never ceased to make me laugh with his quick wit and endearing grin. You gonna sleep through the show, he says. No way, Everly said playfully, just winking at me. Patrick just likes to hide. Rest in peace. The door to the dressing room just flew open. I'm here, announced the short, obnoxious man. Now the show can start. Dale was one of Ben's industry buddies, though precisely what industry I'd yet to discern. He was a casserole of douche. This is funny. He was a casserole of douche energy, a walking, talking amalgam of everything in every Los Angeles clique. I couldn't stand having to deal with him. Sorry I'm late, he told us, just tugging conspicuously at his nose. It took me a fucking hour to find a place to park. I'm sorry, trigger warning. She just writes it as it is, and I'm reading it exactly how she writes it. Okay. I ended up just leaving my car halfway up Weatherly. Weatherly, Ben yelped. It's a residential parking only up there. You're going to get a ticket. Patrick, he just whined, clearly aggravated that I had somehow predicated that the unfolding scenario. Can you please get Dale a parking pass? He just wanted a parking pass. That's why he's complaining. It was a manipulation tactic right there. Of course, I said, just rising from the couch. Give me your keys and I'll handle it. What kind of car? Dale shot me a smug glance and tilted his head forward. He was wearing a baseball cap just embezzled with a shiny metallic Z. He pointed to it and raised his eyebrows, waiting for me to respond. I shook my head to indicate I didn't recognize the symbol. I have no idea what that is. Well, it's a Z, Dale replied incredulously. A Nissan Z. Speaking of a Nissan Z, this is kind of a funny story. I'm going to stop for a minute. Okay, so whenever my child turned 16 and got his driver's license, my husband went and traded his truck and bought my son a brand new little car, But at that point, we needed another vehicle. So I said, well, I had told my husband, well, just go buy yourself whatever it is you want. And he goes, no, you go pick out a car you want. I said, what? Because I had a Pathfinder that was perfectly fine, had low miles. I bought it brand new, and I kept the maintenance on it. Well, So finally, I test drove a Corvette, I test drove a Jaguar, I test drove a little Nissan Z, I test drove a Camaro, and I test drove my GR86. Out of all of those cars, I picked the GR86 because it just fit me and my purse and my dog perfectly. No room for anything else. So that's how I ended up with the little red car that you see all the time and on my logo, and that is Little Red. It's the car. So he ended up taking the Pathfinder, but he just said a few months ago, hey, I think I'm going to buy one of those little Nissan Zs. I said, okay, go ahead, because remember, he was supposed to get the car, not me. I wasn't supposed to get a new car, he was. Well, so he started looking at him, and then he decided, you know what, since he just didn't want to spend the money, so that he stopped talking about it. But you know what, I think he's going to buy one. I think he's going to come home with one of them soon. I'll let y'all know. It's kind of funny. They're cute, but anyway, when she talked about the Z, it made me think about that. I'm sorry, we'll just get back on track. See, I seem sidetracked today, don't I? Just a lot went on today. All right. Oh, just retrieve your keys, Everly said. We don't want you getting a ticket. Dale smirked at her, reached in his pocket, and pulled out a set of keys. There was a large silver Z on the ring, and he dangled in front of me like a dime store hypnotist. She just makes me laugh. I did my best not to laugh. Instead, I calmly reached to take the keys. But just before I could, he snapped the ring out of my reach. Not a chance at all, he said, tossing them onto a nearby coffee table. No one touches the Z, he paused. But I will take a drink, he said. Everly just recoiled. Dale, she said, dropping any pretense of kindness. Patrick isn't a waitress. That's funny. Realizing he'd overplayed his hand, Dale put his hands in front of his mouth and eyes wide with false regret. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Dale said. It's fine, it's fine, Ben barked. And then he muttered, that's what she's here for. Ooh, that was nasty. I actually didn't mind. I said to Everly, this was true. I would have done just about anything to leave that room. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. Besides David's calling, I said, after glancing at the screen, he's probably outside. I'm going to go grab him. And Jack and Diet for Dale. Oh, okay, so she's going to go get that drink. She's going to get him a Jack and Diet Coke for Dale. Ben shouted and I left. I ran down the back stairs and made a beeline for the entrance while my phone continued vibrating in my pocket. Hey, I said when I answered, I'm on my way. I could hear David's voice, but through the crush of the crowd, I couldn't make out the words he was saying. I'm walking out the door right now. Okay. I stepped outside and scanned the sea of faces looking for him, but he was nowhere to be seen. Well, that's weird, I thought. I looked down at my phone and saw a text message. Stuck at work. I'm so sorry, honey. I promise I'll make it up to you. Be good. I inhaled sharply. The message was nothing new. I'd probably received dozens of texts just like this over the last few months. But that night, something about it seemed particularly infuriating. I squeezed the phone and my fingertips growing white with anger as I spun on my heels and walked back inside. After the show, I returned to the dressing room to congratulate my friend. You were awesome, I said. Everly beamed at me, her face still flushed with adrenaline. I feel like celebrating, she said, just excitedly, grabbing my hand. Let's go to the Dorians. Okay, so I'm going to say the Dorians is probably a bar that they're going to go to, okay? Now, I know that David just does not like her going out like that because when she starts, it's kind of problematic. Her bandmate Dorian's cliffside house was almost, it's somebody's personal house. I'm wrong about that. I thought it was a little bar over there in Los Angeles. Anyway, Dorian's cliffside house was almost walking distance from the Roxy. Now, normally I would have wasted little time heading over to what had become a frequent post-show gathering spot. But all I wanted to do was go home. I shook my head and looked down, trying to conceal my disappointment. I'm actually going to head out, I said. Everly looked at me sadly, in her perspective gaze, she was just boring into my psyche. He didn't come, did he? So she just knew that she was upset about that already. It's fine, I said flatly. She shook her head. That sucks, she said. I mean, you know how much I love David. But not showing up tonight, not showing up any night, that's just fucked up. She grabbed my hand. Come over, she pleaded. We can just drink wine and just go night swimming in the sky. The thought of Dorian's hilltop infinity pool made me smile. I guess I could come for a little while, a little bit. And then she says this relentlessly, relenting that she didn't really want to, but she's going to go anyway. Okay, so Everly grinned, yay, and she exclaimed, follow me and Tony. The singer kissed me on the cheek. I'm going to change real quick. She disappeared into the bathroom, and Dale rode with Ben. Will you grab his keys? Everly called. Rolling my eyes, I turned to get the wretched keys from the coffee table, but was interrupted by a burst of air. I spotted an open window in the corner of the room. It was the Santa Ana winds just blowing through the second story with the force of a medieval army. I went to the window and pushed my head through just the narrow frame, watching as the raucous breeze just fiercely lashed through the alley below. I stared in the awe at the hills above the Sunset Plaza. The wind was an invisible assailant, just jostling everything in its path. And then, just as quickly as it had arrived, it disappeared, as if pausing to catch its breath. Resting on my head against the window pane, I basked in the fleeing stillness. I knew the winds would return any second. Like the break between the set of waves, their absence was only temporary. As I waited, a gust of cool air hit my cheek. I reached my hand outside and I just noticed that the temperature had dropped ever so slightly. Just fall had officially arrived. I would like for the air to just drop ever so softly today. Please, I'm tired of the Texas heat. Okay, let me tell you what it is right now. It is 4:02 in the afternoon, and here where I live, it is 92 degrees outside. It is hot. And we have I don't see anything below. Well, the lowest we're going to get next week is 88. So it's still extremely hot in Texas to me. Anyway. So, here we go. Okay, she goes. It had officially arrived. Witching weather, I said with a smile. A flash caught my eye, and I looked down to see the reflection of the moon just gazing up from a puddle. I cocked my head, thinking it was odd to be looking down at the moon, and not just any moon, but a Cheshire moon, the same one I'd seen through the roof earlier that day. My expression darkened as I thought about David's text message, be good. I thought bitterly, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? I shook my head. Why did he get to tell me how to behave? And why was it okay for him to break his promise or stay out late working every night? How come he didn't have to sacrifice his house or work hard to be good? Outside, the wind had howled again. I stared with envy at the chaos left in the invisible wake. A delightful idea began to take shape. I looked at the keys. Okay, now you have to remember that she had a bad habit in college. And so he said, oh, hey, can you go to the store or whatever? Because they would all be drinking. She would take the keys and go on joyrides, okay? She never got in trouble. It's basically she was stealing cars, but she would return them. And then the people would say, oh, that's right, I gave you my keys. So here we go again. Is Patrick going to break her promise to David and just go for a joyride in Dale's car? So let's check it out. I'm feeling like she is, but we'll see. The Silver Z, though still obnoxious, now represent an infinite possibilities and an opportunity to rebel against my boyfriend and get a much-needed dose of oblivion. Hey, E, I called. I'm going to go to the In-N-Out. You want anything? We have an In-N-Out's here. It's actually pretty good. Everly just briefly considered her options. Hey, double with cheese, animal style, she yelled back, with 2 fries and a chocolate shake. God, that's a lot of food. See you at your house, I replied. The walk only took a minute. I turned the keys over in my palm and then paused at the base of the street to look up the hill. I had no idea what a Z looked like. I pressed the key fob and just waited for the car to make an introduction. Nice to meet you, I whispered. The breeze whistled its approval as I approached the sports car and opened the door. I relaxed in the driver's seat and just rested my head against the headrest. The car, like so many before it, just felt sort of like decompression chamber. Only now, instead of pushing against the sensation of apathy, I was excited to welcome it. So she's going to go have a little fun joyride. It was an odd feeling. Sitting there, I was anything but safe. If anything, I was flirting with disaster, about to embark on an adventure that was both illegal and risky. Poor judgment and failure to learn by experience, I thought. Number 8 on Cleckley's list. From where I was sitting, it appeared to be true, but I didn't care. So Cleckley's list is this list of traits that are considered sociopathic traits. Okay, and so she always remembers which trait it is she's acting out in, and she always recalls this. Something about this joyride was different. It felt like a new kind of freedom, a widening, just gyre from which I had a higher, more informed perspective. This was an evolved sense of liberation, the kind that came from understanding myself and falling in my own instincts instead of having to placate someone else's. I might have been up to my same old tricks, but this time I wasn't pacifying myself or trying to avoid boiling over. I wasn't even doing it because I simply wanted to break the rules. I was doing it for a very specific reason, to rebel. Despite the glorious honeymoon period we'd enjoyed, my relationship with David was becoming stifling. I loved him intensely, but it was all too much. The pressure of feeling like I had to conform to his ideas and expectations just filled me with anger. And not just any anger, but a familiar type of rage. It was a sharp spear of fury that had been forged in my childhood, the scars from which I had spent most of my adult life trying to ignore. Since the day David came to town, I'd been working to keep myself contained, restrained, to be a good little girl that he wanted. And that was fine, but this was so much better. Be good, I scoffed again as I put the key into the ignition. Where's the fun in that? I shoved the gear shift into drive and hit the gas. The car made a satisfying whine as I just gunned it down the hill. I knew precisely what David would say if he knew what I was up to. You don't have to do this. But that was the problem, because there, with the city streets at my mercy, I didn't feel that way. I had all the time before. She goes, I didn't feel the way I had all the times before. David was right. I didn't have to do this. I couldn't wait to do it. Okay, so see, she was having that stuck stress that she always talked about. And to her, that stuck stress is actually this pressure that builds up. And so she goes out and she does things. This started when she was a child. She would go out and do things to relieve herself from having this stuck stress. I mean, she's had a really hard time growing up like this because, the next chapter is pretty long. Let me see how many pages we can get through. What time is it for? Okay. The next chapter is chapter 19, and it's called Anonymous. She likes to fly under the radar. See, she just never wanted to be in the middle. She wants to do all these things, but she doesn't want people to notice that she's doing all these things, right? Because she knows she's different. She's known that since she was 7 years old. A few weeks later, I was sitting at work when an email appeared in my inbox, and it read, Dear Patrick, it's a shame I never got to meet you, but I've heard a lot about you from your daddy. Now let me tell you who I am. I'm one of several of your dad's girls that comes into the... this could be bad. I'm one of several of your dad's girls that comes to the office after hours. For some after-hour fun. I have photos of your dad with myself and other girls, and these pics would damage his reputation and end your career. Your father promised to take care of me and make me a star. Well, that has not happened. So, here's the deal. She's going to get blackmailed. I want $50,000 placed in a package and taken to the Holiday Inn on Highland next to the Best Western. When I have the package, a friend of mine will be FedExing the envelope to you at your office address, and it's addressed to you with the pictures. If you tell anyone or go to the cops, I will hurt you. I know where you live. I will hunt you down like an animal and leave a nice scar on that pretty face. Your boyfriend won't want an ugly girl. Don't you think the decision is up to you? Oh my gosh, that's pretty bad. Your girlfriend won't want an ugly girl. Don't you think? I squinted at the screen. It had been written anonymously, but I had a sneaky suspicion who sent it. Her name was Jenny Crusty, the mother of a spectacular talented singer-songwriter named Oliver. Jenny had well earned a reputation for being unhinged, I'd witnessed firsthand as a member of her son's management team. This woman gave a new meaning to the word entitled. As far as Jenny was concerned, all of her success was the financial win she deserved. Like most this is funny. She goes, like most momagers I've come across, Jenny had an insatiable thirst for money that she didn't earn. Having one offspring meal ticket wasn't enough, so she'd recently set her sights high on her younger child, Liam. Unfortunately, Liam had nowhere near the same level of talent as his brother. Jenny insisted, though, begging my father to sign Liam as a client and make him a star. To his credit, my father did everything he could, hiring vocal coaches, guitar teachers, media trainers, and stylists. He went above and beyond to help, but Liam failed to impress. He was so sweet, and his vocal skills were just undeniably strong. The issue was he didn't seem to want to be a singer. After months of record label rejections, Dad finally had to break the bad news. I'm sorry, he said to Liam and his mother, but we've tried everything we can for right now. Let's give it a shot in another couple of years. Dad had kept it positive, but there was no mistaking the message. Liam was not going to follow his brother's footsteps, not anytime soon. They shook hands and just prepared the ways. That's when Jenny Christie went off the rails. Within days, we started getting threatening phone calls. Jenny would call the management offices at all hours in various states of outrage, just entitled. She had always asked for my father, but when she couldn't get him on the phone, she was just as happy to direct her aggression again at me. You listen to me, little girl, she said one afternoon. You owe me. I quit my job to support Liam's career, so you need to tell your daddy to give me an advance on his advance. I handled these calls with placatory indifference. Totally, I'd say, in my most pacifying tone. I'll have to reach out. She goes, I will have to reach out to the second he gets back to the office. And then I'd hang up and forget to call that the call ever happened. After a few weeks of this, Jenny realized her tactics, this is bad, weren't getting her anywhere. She started just upping the ante by appearing in person. At first, those visits were startling, but not overly, menacing. Over time, though, they became more disturbing. She showed up several times each week, harassing our receptionist and demanding to be taken seriously. Following a dramatic visit during to which she brandished a baseball bat, Dad decided he had had enough. He alerted his attorneys, who called Jenny and threatened legal action. And we finally stopped hearing from her. That is, until I get the email. Reading the message again, I could almost smell Jenny's foul breath as she's a funny writer, guys. She's just funny. I wish she would. I wonder if she's written another book. I need to see if she has. Because if she has written another book, I'm going to buy it. Absolutely. Okay. Dad decided he'd had enough. So he gets the attorneys. Okay. And we finally stopped hearing from her. That is, until I got the email. Reading the message again, I could almost smell Jenny's foul breath as she finger-pecked her keyboard. I thought it had to be her, but to be certain, I decided to enlist the help of a professional. I contacted Anthony, or Tony Pacenti, a private investigator who'd done some freelance work for my father. Known as the detective to the stars, Tony's tactics were discreet, if not always legal. So when he called me a few weeks later, I wasted little time heading to his office. It's crusty, all right, Tony said. I traced it to Kinko's near her place. He handed me a black and white photo of Jenny just hunched over a keyboard. You said you got another email last night, right? Indeed, I had. Since her first demand had gone unanswered, Jenny had continued sending messages, each one increasing in specifics and threat levels. Yeah, I replied, taking out my laptop. I opened my mailbox and it came in at 8:06. Tony nodded, and then I caught her red-handed. This is the IP address of that email, he said, pointing it to the window on my screen. He took out a notepad with numbers written on it. And this is the IP address of the computer. The numbers matched. I looked at the timestamp, and he added, this photo was taken at 7:40. She was probably in the middle of writing it. This is bad. She is caught red-handed. I studied the photograph. The proof of Jenny's desperation just made me smile slyly. Thanks, Tony, I said, looking up. This is exactly what I needed. Oh my Lord, that's terrible. Jeannie lived just in a small rundown townhome located in one of the many sleepy suburbs of Los Angeles. My trips there began shortly after I met with Tony. Like Jeannie's visits to my office, it started out fairly innocent. The first time, I didn't even get out of my car. I just sat in front of her building. The satisfaction of hidden proximity just filling me with familiar scents and scenery and serenity. In a lot of ways, the experience was like sneaking out of my bedroom window to observe the neighbors during their night. Except Jeannie was not a neighbor, and my interests were no longer those of innocent spectator. Uh-oh, she's going to do something. This was different. At Jeannie's, I felt sort of a desire, a longing for wickedness. I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to contain it, and I liked it. She is fixing to do something pretty drastic. I'm sure she's feeling stuck stressed because she's already out stalking her a little bit, see. For almost a month, all I did was case the place, with David working on yet another project that kept him at the office until after midnight, just for weeks at a time. I had a relentless string of evenings where I could just slip away unnoticed. I tried to keep things level, sort of, but the intensity of my craving just eventually became too much to resist. Perhaps, inevitably, I allowed myself to inch closer. One night, I parked my car in a space labeled Visitor and just cut across some grass toward her building. The community was in obvious need of repairs. Burnt-out street lamps and narrow footpaths just rendered me nearly invisible as I made my way to Jenny's unit. I ran my fingers along the light wooden fence that just bordered her yard. And then I paused for a second and just peered through the slats. The yard was empty and save and, save for the lights from her living room, dark. I hoisted myself up and over the fence, landing with an awkward thud on the grass. There's that word thud. Okay. The word thud. Who else used the word thud? And I heard a thud in his room. The sliding glass doors extended the width of the building and may as well have been just a movie screen for that view. May as well have just been a movie screen for the view they provided of the interior, just secure in the assumption that her yard was private. Jeannie made no use of the she made me laugh. She made no use of the tacky blinds that just hung open to either side. She lived her life as if no one was watching, except I was watching, and the timing was perfect. My life in that moment wasn't going particularly well. In addition to being blackmailed, my boyfriend was hardly speaking to me. Oh, almost been on an hour. Okay. David hadn't taken kindly to my joyride in Dale Z, just leaving me wondering whether our keychain confessionals were really such a good idea. You stole a fucking car? David couldn't believe it. Why? Well, it was the day after Everly's concert, and we were in the living room talking about my most recent transgression. He paced angrily, the miniature Statue of Liberty swinging from his fingers like a Metatron. I kept my eyes on it, just wishing it would put us both. I'm sorry. She goes, I kept my eyes on it, just wishing it would put us both to sleep. I shrugged because I felt like it. He glared at me. But you knew it was wrong. Yes, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't care. Don't you get it? I have to want to make the right choice, to follow the rules. And what do I get in return? Nothing. That's what. She's kind of angry, I think, at this point. I get it. This had been on my mind since Everly had described our friendship as a symmetrical symbiosis. As easily as she adopted certain dark traits of mine, I borrowed various light traits of hers. The result was, a psychological cross-pollination just benefited us both. We supported one another, but whereas my friendship with Everly was based on equal give and take, my relationship with David was not. What the fuck does that mean? He snapped. I don't think you realize how often you come to me for advice, how often you're okay with my sociopathic behavior when it suits you. I responded, I don't mind. I like seeing you explore that side of yourself. I love sharing myself with you, but I don't feel like you do the same for me. Ever since you moved here, I've busted my ass to be a good partner for you, to understand you. And not only are you not showing up for me, but you're borrowing my ego strength, while at the same time telling me I have to be a good girl. It's fucking bullshit. I'm not the one he goes, this is him talking to Patrice. I'm not the one boosting cars, Patrick. Oh, the fight's on now. Neither. She goes, neither was I until last night. And I did it because I wanted to rebel against you. I knew you'd be pissed and we'd be fighting and maybe just hash things out. So this is my fault? I clenched my fist and closed my eyes. The French doors were open to the backyard and the smell of firewood just drifted in from the neighbor's chimney. God, how I wished I could be lighting a fire with the jazz on, the stereo, and a glass of wine in my hand. How I wished I could be just sitting at the picture window, happily waiting for David to return. Instead, I felt trapped in my own home and was fighting the urge to just beat the shit out of him. Her rage is really coming out. No, I managed to reply evenly, but I think the balance of our relationship is skewed. I pointed out the figurine he still held. For one thing, I don't think that's a good idea anymore. His fingers instinctively closed around the statue. What? Why not? Because it's dumb, I told him. Why should I have to confess anything to you? You're my boyfriend, not my priest. And I reached forward and took his hands. You're the man I love, I insisted. I want you to accept me like I accept you. I want us to be partners, equal partners. He looked confused, but I could tell he was trying. I want that too, he said. So we agreed we would do our best to support each other. We'd work harder to communicate, but nothing seemed to change. If anything, David threw himself even deeper into his work. Any attempt to draw him into my world was met with constration, if not outright just anger. I knew I was partially to blame. Being in a relationship with me was no picnic, but I felt like David used that to his advantage. After all, I was a sociopath, so he never had to take responsibility for any of his behaviors. He had his flaws behind mine, and there was just nothing I could do about it. It was like being on the guillotine and just waiting for the blade to fall. Our relationship was in a state of suspended animation and nowhere to go. My own home, the only true refuge I'd ever had, was now my least favorite place to be. Everywhere I looked, I was reminded of the happier times. I was haunted by my memories and photographs of normal, just life that seemed to be slipping through my fingers. If anything, being in my own house was annoying, claustrophobic. So I set my sights on Jenny's. Her tiny world was the perfect environment for my expanding restlessness. If David no longer accepted me, I just reasoned that I didn't need to play by his rules. I can embrace my full self. In a way I felt like a tiger that had escaped the zoo. I wasn't hungry per se, but I was excited to finally get to hunt, and I wasn't the only one. In the recent weeks, Jenny had grown desperate in her attempts to extort money from me. So this lady just keeps on, this Jenny person. At first, it was just a steady barrage of emails, but when I didn't reply to those, she started making threatening phone calls. Day after day, night after night, the screen on my phone would just announce messages from unknown caller. Increasingly irrational voicemails left little to imagination. Jenny's calls were like a gift from the Jenny's calls were like a gift from the abyss. Risk-free meat on which my dark side could feed. The woman deranged warnings. However, baleful, no match for the strength of my indifference. With every anonymous email and unknown phone call, she was triggering an avalanche of sociopathic provocations. Okay, hang on. With every anonymous email and unknown phone call, she was triggering an avalanche of sociopathic provocations. She was provoking her with this. My eyes are getting tired. I need more light right there. Let me get over here. I gotta resituate and take a drink. Hang on. I really wasn't gonna stay on this long, but I will. Nice Texas sweet tea. Yum, yum. All right. Whew. So let me get back to where I was. I'm sorry, guys. I had to get a drink. Okay. The woman and her deranged warnings. Okay. We already said that one. Let me go back. Okay. The strongest of these was her depiction of my father as something other than an honorable man. I wasn't sure how to handle it. On one hand, I knew my father had just well-earned reputation for being a ladies' man. Only this had never bothered me. Maybe, except like so many men in his cohorts, did a phenomenal job of normalizing it. She goes, I'm a desperado kid. He liked to say, just like the song. Okay, so he did all this and she watched it. In her mind, this was kind of normal because this is how he lived. So normalized running around, I guess. But even I had to admit there was something occasionally off about his extracurricular activities. It was never anything blatant, just a subtle awareness that things weren't quite right. A puzzle with one missing piece, like the night we were having dinner and a woman thinking we were on a date, followed me into the bathroom and cautioned me to watch out. Or the time I was cleaning the attic and stumbled across a stack of pictures of him with dozens of different young women in various stages of undress. That was what really troubled me about Jenny's email. Like any good con, the information was just accurate enough to seem credible. I knew Dad often stayed late at the office. For example, she goes, more than once I'd driven by the building after midnight and seen his car there. And the description of the pictures Jenny claimed to possess were similar to the ones I'd found in the attic. The problem was that I couldn't decide if any of it was bad. Jenny hadn't accused my father of doing anything illegal. Her only grievance was that he hadn't made her son a star. The photos she claimed to have were meant to embarrass, not incarcerate him. So did it matter if it was going to the office late? She goes, so did it matter if he was going to the office late at night for some after-hour fun? It was a tricky spot. I knew better than anyone that I wasn't the best person to judge good behavior from bad, especially when it came to others. Dr. Carlin had confirmed during one of her first sessions. Oh, my eyes are getting tired. You have what's called a high tolerance for pathology. She said, when I asked her what that was, she explained, it means you have a high fear threshold. People in circumstances that most everyone else recognizes as dangerous or problematic will not always register that way for you. Your judgment is skewed to perceive potentially threatening situations as non-threatening. It's quite common among sociopaths. I remembered that man with the kittens. Remember? Oh, okay. So if you remember the first part of the book, when she was a child, they were walking down the street and this guy tried to con her over with kittens. Her sister could sense that there was something wrong and told her, no, don't go. She almost got kidnapped. So, what's happening now? Were my father's relationships with some women atypical? Had my high tolerance for pathology blinded me once again to what everybody else could see? She goes, let me start over on that sentence. Was that happening now? Was my father's relationships with women atypical? Had my high tolerance for pathology just blinded me once again to what everyone else could see was dangerous or problematic? I didn't know what was going on, and worse, I didn't have anyone to ask. David had made his feelings clear. Obviously, I couldn't confide in my father. Everly was technically a client, so she was off limits. Even my own therapist was a no-go. I knew Dr. Carlin wouldn't be okay with me stalking Jenny. It would mean I had broken our agreement. So see, she's manipulating her own doctor too. This is why I wanted to process things in therapy years ago. I imagined her telling me, so you'd be prepared when your destructive urges return for any reason. And she would be right. What's more, she would likely want to contact the authorities. It's what any rational person would do. But I didn't want to tell the police, or anyone else for that matter. Bringing Jenny's threats to light would neutralize the outlet I'd found for my darkness. I wasn't quite ready to surrender that. Why send her to the prison when it was much more gratifying to deal with her myself? I was just uncaged in a way, so I decided to make the most of it. Okay, she's really just, I think David's going to be very upset when she does this. I have not read ahead. I'm just reading it for the first time to y'all. I never read any of this book ahead. Anyway, it was the weekend, and I was standing in Jenny's backyard just watching her through the window. My standards, I was in the great mood. Carla was in town, and I'd spent much of the afternoon hanging out with her and Everly at the abandoned house off Mulholland. the vacant dwelling providing a temporary break from my frustration at home. The trip to Jenny's was just a last-minute decision. I dropped Harlow at Dad's. After dinner, I was heading home to an empty house. I knew David wouldn't be at home for hours when I realized I don't feel like it. For the first time in a long time, I was relaxed. I was in the mood to be mischievous, not depressed. I figured a trip to Jenny's would just be the perfect way to end the day. I took the freeway to the suburbs, where the shadows of her little yard enveloped me like a warm bath. That night, the air was crisp, and I stood under the tree in the corner, just well hidden behind its thick trunk, as Jenny paced in her living room. It was clear she was agitated about something. My long detour was playing out better than I'd thought. Catching Jenny in a foul mood was a bonus. I like seeing Jenny upset. Ooh, she can be bad. I wanted her to be miserable, even if I wasn't directly responsible for her misery. After about a half hour, though, I got bored. I was about to leave when my phone buzzed, and I looked down at the screen. It said unknown caller. So Jenny is calling her, and she's in her backyard stalking her. Oh, this is getting good, and it's funny. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Lord. Let me see something here. Hang on a second. I need to get new reading glasses. I don't think these reading glasses are strong enough. I just don't think they are. I'm going to have to replace them. I have a little bit of a hard time over here. That's why it's kind of like, sorry, guys. Unknown caller. I couldn't believe it. I looked up to see what Jenny was doing. She was standing in front of her bedroom window, a phone against her ear. I covered my mouth with one hand to control myself as I answered. Hello, I said softly, disguising my voice with a southern accent. I changed the tone of my voice every now and then to throw Jenny off balance. It always pissed her off, and that night was no exception. I grinned as I watched her expression just switching to confusion as she double-checked to make sure that she dialed the correct number. Hello, I said again, she was just antagonized. She was making her more angry at that point. I would just love to hear her talking on the phone like this. Oh, Jenny said after a beat, is this Harlow? The blood just drained from my face at the mention of my sister's name. I heard you were in town, she said. Can you give your big sister a message for me? Her voice was raspy and just malevolent. Tell her she needs to pay her bills, or else I'm going to find you and hurt you, Harlow, even if you have to fly all the way to Florida. Even if she has to, okay, now she's threatening her little sister. Now, this is where Jenny's making a huge mistake, because she, Patrick may be a lot of things, but she's very protective of her little sister, okay? Wow, that's just terrible. I hung up. When Jenny heard a dial tone, she looked at the receiver smugly before returning to its cradle. Every muscle in my body grew still as long-lost memories rose to the forefront from my consciousness. My grandparents' farm in Mississippi had a stable where they kept horses. Harlow and I just loved to visit when we were kids. We did so on every trip there. Most of the horses were gentle, just barn-broken, and easy to ride, but there was one that wasn't. Charlotte was a giant black mare with just a ruthless disposition and an unkempt mane that just hung halfway to the ground. She was noticeably unpredictable and willful. So much so that she was never allowed out of the barn when we were there. But I'll never forget the sound she made when she wanted to protest her confinement. At first it was isolated, just one sharp kick to the door. One sharp kick to the door of the stable. As she watched the other horses being led out to pasture, boom! Charlotte, my grandfather would shout, don't you start. And then he'd look at my sister and me. Just ignore her, he whispered, but Charlotte wouldn't be ignored. Over and over she'd kick, her objections just forceful and rhythmic. The planks would shudder from the power of her hoof. Boom, boom. I remember looking up at that horse, her black eyes just boring dispassionately into mine as she displayed her will. Boom, boom, boom. Only her top half was visible, and I saw no movement in the torso. The force of her kick seemed to have no impact on her upper body, which was kind of stoic and methodical as she continued her controlled protest. With the phone still in my hand, I realized I had my own thunder building deep inside. It was barely noticeable at first. Buried, it was under a few years of discipline and control and therapy and hope. But it had started to grow boom, boom, boom. So she started to have it again, the stuck stress that she talks about. Except it's really bad now because now this Jenny chick has just threatened her little sister. And that's the last thing she should have done. Okay. A clattering of just Venetian blinds snapped me back into present, and I saw Jenny step onto the patio for a cigarette. It wasn't the first time this had happened. She was a chronic smoker and frequently wandered outside during my visits, just lost in her cognitive dissonance. She stood, but hang on a second, I started laughing. She's too funny. Okay, let me catch back up here. I stared at Jenny as she sucked. This is funny. I stared at Jenny as she sucked continually on her menthol light. She's smoking menthol light cigarettes. The look on her face made it clear that she was no longer agitated. She seemed almost giddy, and I knew why. It's because you threatened my sister, I thought, or at least you think you did. You fucking bitch. Sorry, trigger warning, because she just says it, and I just read it. It's okay. Jenny extinguished her cigarette in a nearby planter, and then she did something she'd never done. She stepped into the yard. I watched as she began to meander mindlessly, each step drawing her closer to the spot under the tree where I stood, watching and waiting. Uh-oh, she's going to get caught. Oh, my goodness. With the fortitude of my discipline only slightly stronger than the pull of my darkness, a sociopath battle of wills was playing out just only steps from where Jenny strolled, blissfully ignorant. The heightened risk produced an acute satisfaction. God, I loved how it made me feel. Power and strength and nothingness and acceptance all rolled into one. She'd never seen, wait a minute. She'd never see it coming, I thought, with a smile. Every muscle in my body just braced for movement as I considered my options. She was only a yard or so away now. All I needed to do was for her to take one more step, and my dark side could just take the lead. One more step, and I wouldn't even need to move out of the shadows for the force of, oh, wait a minute, she goes. One more step, and my dark side could just take the lead. One more step, and I wouldn't even need to move out of the shadows for the force of my darkness to flex its strength. I could just wait for the high, for the release. In other words, if she'd stepped closer, I think she's going to get a punch. All right, she's going to sucker punch is what's going to happen. Jenny stopped. It seemed that she'd made up her mind to stand there forever. But then finally she lifted her foot to move forward to my tree. I took a slow inhale as I prepared to make my move. That's when the front door slammed. Jenny and I whirled around to look at the house. Hello, she called out. There was no reply. We both stood still, our eyes on the entrance of the living room. A young boy appeared. Hey, Mom. It was Liam. He stood in the doorway while Jenny returned to the patio. How was the movie? Asked Jenny. The boy just shrugged. Meh, stupid. Jenny embraced him. Are you hungry? She asked, just planting a kiss on his cheek. You want to order a pizza? Liam smiled. Extra cheese. Jenny nodded. You got it. She put her arm around her son, and the two of them just walked inside. I watched, my dark side just shrinking further into the shadows with their every step. For a second, I was frozen. I stood there, disabled by my spinning psyche, but always unable to stop watching the scene unfolding. A mother and her son just turning on the television and setting up a coffee table for a late-night pizza. It was just paralyzing. I might have stayed there, but... She goes, I might have stayed there all night. But then Jenny did something else she'd never done before. Turning to face the yard, she reached to the side and tugged on the cord and closed the blinds, like a moviegoer who had stayed too long. I stood awkwardly in the corner of the yard, just watching the vertical slats as they slid slowly sideways and pitched the entire space into darkness. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. So we're going to start at chapter 20 next time. So let me put this right here. Okay, great. Anyway, so I've been on for about an hour and 14 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye for today. I just wanted to get through our book. I wanted to read a little bit. Just wanted to talk a little bit. I should have just pre-recorded this and put it out, but I didn't because it was just a snap decision. You just jump on and speak for a moment because I'd seen some things today that just were really, it was unbelievable. I don't understand. I'll never understand, really. I mean, imagine this scenario. You're over here minding your own damn business, not bothering a soul, just doing what you do, just enjoying your channel, doing all the things you want to do, talking about whatever you want to talk about. And then you have somebody else over here who decides that there must be something wrong with you because they don't like how you're doing it. What is that about? What is that? I don't even know. It's like, I just, is this the new Karen of YouTube? I mean, I don't know. I thought, oh Lord, please, Lord, let's find other things to do with our time besides monitor other people. Leave them alone. Mind your own business. Do your own thing. Live and let live. Let people be. How people choose to live is their business. It's not for us to decide. It's not for us to judge. But anyway, I'm going to leave that right there. I'll see y'all back on Tuesday. I'll try to pre-record some more of our books so we can get this finished. And then we'll get right back on to our Aubrey Trail. It's Aubrey Trail brief that we're reading. And I'm getting some other briefs because, here's something funny. I don't know if anybody watched today, but Colby Ryan came on and discussed these letters that Chad had put out. Now, I'm very disgusted by that because Colby and his little family are trying to recover. I mean, think about what's happened to him. It is the month of September. This is when his sister's life was taken, remember? And Chad comes out now with some letter, some more of his, just putting out some more bullshit, some more of his cult crap. I truly feel like, and I don't know it for a fact, but it seems like he's trying to get, like he's just pouring salt in that wound, pouring salt in that wound, pouring salt in. It is sickening and it's sad. I just feel so bad for that Colby and his little family. I do. Chad, shut the hell up. Chad, get your mouth closed. Stay in jail where you belong. Lori, shut the hell up. Neither one of you are going to do anything about 144,000. You're just in the head. Come on. Stop it. It's not fair. You're dangerous. You are dangerous to the rest of us with your your behaviors and your thoughts and your oh boy. Anyway, I feel like as a victim that Colby has every right to do something about it, to stop Chad from writing a book, to stop Lori from writing a book. Why in the world are they allowed to make money off of this? I just can't stand it. If you have not listened to the letters that Chad had released, please go listen to them on Colby or with Nate Eaton's channels. Please go listen to this because you're going to be shocked and you're going to be sick because he goes in and he continues on with his victim blaming as if there was something wrong with Tammy. There was nothing wrong with Tammy. Tammy's life was taken by you, Chad, by you, Lori, and by your brother. That is what happened here. She was not ill. She was not going to pass away early. All of that is BS made up in your damn mind. As all that is you giving an excuse as to why you're going to go marry Lori. Because, she, oh my God, it's just disgusting. Here's the one thing I do know. And I put this in Colby's chat. I told Colby, if you need help, gathering up money to pay for an attorney to go fight this, to stop these two from spreading any more of their BS into the world, just to reach out, because a lot of us would donate to that because it is horrific what Chad is doing. Neither one of them should be allowed to write a book. I know the Son of Sam law was deemed to be against the rights of people just because they were incarcerated, so they can, at this point, the Son of Sam law is not really in place. But now I do think I remember, let me look this up real quick, because I remember something about a judge who specifically said in his deliver of the sentence to a person, I don't remember who this was, Son of Sam law, about that he was never going to be allowed to make any money on, he instituted that in to this one case that I can remember. Son of Sam laws for Idaho. Here we go. Idaho. Let's see. What does it say? I'm going to look at that. It says, Idaho does not have a specific Son of Sam law. These laws, which were originally designed to prevent criminals from profiting from their crimes, have been struck down on First Amendment grounds in other jurisdictions, making it difficult for states to create and enforce them, create or enforce them effectively. The mention of Son of Sam in context of Idaho likely refers to the University of Idaho murder trial, where the judge alluded to the absence of such laws and expressed hope that the convicted killer, Brian Kohlberger, would not profit from selling his story. Now, these laws were enhanced to ensure criminals could not profit from their crimes by selling their stories to media companies. The first such law was passed in New York in 1977, following the serial killer David Berkowitz's actions. However, the Supreme Court ruled in Simon & Schuster versus Crime Victims Board, 1992, that these laws violated the First Amendment's free speech protection, which has made it difficult for states to create or enforce them. So, let me see if they say anything else about this. Okay, so unfortunately, I guess they'll be, the only way to stop these people, I guess, is to not buy them. Don't listen to it. Don't give them the satisfaction knowing that anybody is interested in anything they have to say, right? As soon as I can get my hands on the appeals filed by these people, I'm going to get them, and we're going to go over them, and we're going to read them, because I want to know what those fool asses have to say for themselves. Telling you, they are despicable. It's outrageous. Anyway. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. I'll see y'all on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be careful out there. Hey, and hug your babies. I'm telling you, time is short with your children. Okay? Bye, guys. See you later. Have a good weekend. Where's my little mouse? My little dog's like, come on, Mama. Come over here. Bye.